Now? Look at that, it's working. All right, so I want to start with a short story. A while ago, I worked with a client that was really, really confused about all its marketing efforts. This picture perfectly shows what he was going through. He had an agency doing his SEO, a copywriter doing its content, a really nice, pretty brand book that was like, wow, we are all this. Had a social media agent and a person who was doing the sales calls. If you look at all this big picture, it looks pretty awesome. You would think that you have covered all your marketing needs. But the issue was that all these efforts were scattered around. So when I asked them, can you please show me how all these things that you are doing actually are working together? And let me tell you, they were pretty puzzled about my question. And as a first reaction, everybody started just defending their own department. Everybody tried to show me all the amazing results that they can actually bring. But I had one very simple question. Can you please show me how all these efforts actually fit together? And this was a moment of silence. Because they had no answer to my very tricky question. And I like to compare this to an analogy from Formula One. And that looks something like that. One of the part of the team tries to optimize for a sprint. The other part of the team runs a long race. And then you have your driver standing in the middle, very confused, and actually wondering what kind of race we are running here. This is how their marketing efforts actually looked. I'm not blaming these people. If you looked at them individually, everyone was doing their job, but nobody was working together. So at this point, wrong direction. I love whiteboards. So at this board, I approached the whiteboard, and on one side, I wrote their ideal customer, and the other side, their main offer. Consider that they had several offers, and none of them were actually prioritized. And at this point, I asked them, how do you go from clients not knowing that you actually exist to trusting you, buying from you, and eventually turning into loyal customers? And everybody shared their ideas, how we should do this, how we should achieve these goals. And at the end of this whiteboard session, I had a bunch of arrows and points, but nothing was actually connected together. They looked something like in a Formula car, when you have the best tires, the most powerful engine, but you have one really big problem. And that's it, that nothing actually works together. This is the best way to illustrate it. The SEO was going in one direction, their social media was focusing on really nice graphics that looked really nice. The SEO was writing articles here and there for all the offers that the management actually wanted to sell. And the sales, obviously, they were pushing really hard. So if you look at this whole picture, there was no race plan. There was no system behind all their efforts. So everything was world class, but nothing actually worked together. And this is how I lead to my today's talk, which is called Strategy First Growth, how you turn all your scattered digital efforts into one coherent system. That's a pretty mouthful, so I like to call it the growth engine. Okay, the main question we ask here, it's not how do we do more marketing, which we tend more often to fall for, but the question actually is, how do we turn everything that we already have into one coherent growth engine? So how do we do that? We had a long discussion with the management, with the team after this shocking moment. And they never realized how disconnected this all is. And I can tell you that I see this very often at businesses who are trying to invest in all kind of marketing, but never actually think that all those things should work together. And this was a very important moment. It's actually a shock for customers most often, but it's also the first aha moment, which is important because without awareness, we don't go nowhere. So the biggest problem is that you cannot fix what you cannot see. So now that I pointed out the problem, let's see how we actually fix it. The solution is a very, very simple framework. Before we jump into the framework, though, I would like to discuss what is the growth engine. Before I jump into that again, I would like to say that the growth engine is not another buzzword, neither trying to follow all the stupid TikTok trends. The growth engine is built on 3 very simple pillars. Where the first one is that we set our goal, not our channel. You can have 10 different social media channels and struggle with the pain of feeling left out if you have no goal. So you set your goal, it could be anything. It could be the clients you want in the next month. What do you want to actually achieve in your business so your marketing efforts can work for all this? What is your goal? What race you are actually in? And how do you set up your car to actually achieve that? In a Formula One, nobody is using soft tires just because they're trending, right? The second pillar is that every channel has to have a clear job. Your SEO, your content, your brand, marketing, and any other efforts work together with a one clear job. The engine is not trying to be your steering wheel. The brakes are not trying to lead the whole car. Each part plays a very important role in actually winning that race. And the third pillar, which I think is pretty obvious, everything has to be built to work as a system, realistically. So you're not going to plan for the budget that your competitor has, neither for the dream team. You're going to realistically plan for all the resources that you have available. If it cannot work with your actual time, money, and resources that you have, it's not a strategy, it's just a wish. And as the Lulu I am, I can tell you that a marketing strategy beats all that Delulu. So, how do we actually do that? Let's break down the framework. We start by diagnosing the chaos that we are in. So, at this moment, imagine that you roll in the garage your car, you turn on the light, and you realistically face the mess you are in. This is a very important part, but also very difficult because a lot of business owners try to blindly just brush everything under the carpet. So how do we do that? As I said, we are facing our reality. And we are going to analyze what we are doing in every channel separately. Your SEO, your social media, and whatever other growth channels you actually have. What is each one trying to achieve? And then, do we agree on what success looks like across all these platforms? Once we are clear of the mess we are in, we are going to define our growth direction. So we basically decide what race we want to be in, and we align all our channels to win that race. This could look like you decide what offers or services you want to grow. What are you actually trying to sell very clearly? And how do you want to be positioned in the mind of your audience? So you have a direction now. To find your direction, it could be a bit challenging, but I use this very simple framework that can help you define. You just need to fill up the blanks. Sometimes it could be difficult because people try to end to want to offer their services for everyone. You need to choose that niche, okay? You cannot just market everyone. This is how it looks for me. I'm not going to read it, but I think it serves as a good example. And the third part of our growth path is actually designing it. Okay? So the channels need to have clear job. They cannot be just noise around. You cannot follow the trends that your neighbor is on TikTok and then you're going on TikTok as well. In marketing, usually clients go through these phases. It comes awareness, then interest, trust, action, and loyalty. Everybody wants to reach to loyalty because it is much easier to have clients that already trust you and they return than to actually convert new clients. So how do we design that growth path, right? In your setup, every channel has very specific role. Your SEO will bring in the audience that is already looking for you. Your social create awareness or direction. Your branding plays a very important role. Your content will educate, answer questions, and all this should feed into sales with one very clear goal. And sales will turn your investment in all the marketing efforts into revenue. And eventually will turn feedback back to marketing, what's working and what is not working. And we get to the fourth part, which I would say it's one of the most important and one that misses most often. We actually connect the missing links. As we have seen in the previous example, these people, they invested in the marketing, they covered all the parts, but nothing was connected. So we are connecting our missing links. And you will realize that your performance is usually lost at these links in between. This depends for every company, but you could go, you check your handouts between channels, the messaging, it's very important. Everywhere you should say the same thing. You cannot promote one service on TikTok and the other one on SEO. All message that you write has to say the same thing. And obviously tracking, like the lady who said before me, if you don't track your efforts, you're just basically wasting your money. And if you want to turn this into Formula One, the pit stop is actually your handoff, right? So if they are unclear or inconsistent, you will lose the people. You will lose the people on social media or on the first SEO search. And the fifth step in our framework is actually planning a realistic execution. And I know, it's really nice to plan for the next 3 years, but a realistic execution needs to be planned for the next 90 days. Because how you will know what happens in 3 years' time in your marketing? That's why a huge marketing strategy that should cover the next 5 years is not able to convert. So we will run the system for the next 90 days. How do we do that? We set our priorities, usually 3 to 5 priorities, not more than that. It's not achievable. Who will do each one? You have a team. You know the resources you have. How much time you realistically have to reach this goal? And what can you stop doing so you can actually finish and reach these goals? No F1 team rebuilds their entire car in the middle of the season. That's why you're not going to rebuild your whole marketing. You will take this very simple strategy and apply it for the next 90 days. Okay, this is my motto, actually. Simple strategy that gets executed beats a perfect strategy that lives in your folders. You can ask a lot of companies, they did invest it in a marketing strategy and is there on the drive or on the cloud, very pretty folder. Okay. Nobody's going to go home from here and say, wow, I heard this amazing framework. No, people will go home with examples. I think it's important to mention that such framework can be easily applied to a solopreneur, but also to a big business. I would like to share an example from a coach that I worked with years before. I met him at a networking event. I really felt that he's very genuine and I like the work that he does. But his struggle was that he could not bring in clients. He tried social media, and if you scroll through social media, you realize that there are hundreds of advices. So how do you actually know what to follow, right? If you don't have a strategy, you don't have a framework. This was his problem. So when we met, he was in this messy situation. He was posting on LinkedIn randomly, anything that aligned, which I support authenticity, but this is not a way to grow on social media. He was managing a blog. He had so many offers on its website that whoever wanted to buy something had no idea what it should buy. And had a small community that was not really converting at that time. So before we had no clear strategy, no clear goal, just had a bunch of activities. So we took this framework that I just presented, we applied it, and this is where it got us. First, we rebuilt a website on one clear offer. Yes, I'm not saying that you should kill all your services, but you need to decide what's your main moneymaker. So you have one clear offer, one clear growth path. And for this specific person, this looked like LinkedIn. It was posting consistently but aligned. We don't push, let's just have 3 posts every week. No, it has to be really aligned. It was a very focused content that we put out there that was basically feeding for the offer that this person was trying to sell. We had a clear offer page which led to bookings, and he even managed to grow his community, which wasn't on purpose. This wasn't our goal. These are some of the things that he managed to achieve with a simple framework. I cannot share his dashboard, unfortunately. And then the other example, it's for a large business, the same framework. This was a bit different. I met this person at a networking event, and he was really, really angry that he spent so much money on marketing every month, and he felt that there is no return on that. It's very similar to the first story, actually. And he was actually angry on me in a way because I work in marketing. It wasn't my fault. He was not my client at that time. So I asked him, can you please just share a bit, like, what are you actually doing and why nothing works out? So his thing, it's here. He was running ads. He had a very nice email campaign. He invested in SEO like thousands. Had a social media team and a person who was doing written content, photography, and so on. And everybody was doing their job. There is no doubt to that. I'm not blaming anyone. But no one actually owned the full journey. So what happened once we applied the framework that you saw earlier? We worked for one shared goal. Yes, they had a lot of offers, but they had one main offer that brought the most money, and then later on we optimized 2 more offers that were less. But in the first 90 days, we had one shared goal, a clear channel of roles, which is very important, and an aligned client journey. So for him, looked roughly like this. We went from social media to website, and people were requesting information. The sales team was doing the follow-up, and actually people booked the consultation, which later converted in clients. I think it's important to mention that we didn't increase the budget. This did not become more expensive for my client. We just actually aligned everything that he already had. These are some of the goals he reached. And I want to tell you something, that they are not special. I know that people in the room might feel, oh, these people are special, they managed to do this. No, they are actually very typical. Any one of you could be that coaching business, or any one of you could be that consultation. Okay, I want to tell you that this shift is not magic. Because I hear this often that, oh, you did magic. No, this is not magic. You basically sit down, you see the whole picture, you're very realistic with the mess you are in, and you agree on the race and tune your car to win that. Yeah. Okay, I want to go back to the first story just a tiny bit because I didn't finish that one. So we realized on the whiteboard what were the problems. The next questions of the management was, what is the next right move to turn everything into a system once they realized? And I remember the team, shocking, they were really scared that they might lose their job because of this system. But that's not. I was just helping them to work together. And the questions that popped up, which is a very common one, is AI going to replace us? No. We are just going to work as a system. Again, it's not magic. The answer for this client was one aligned goal. We started with their main offer, very similar for the consultation office. We had one growth path, and we had to fix a few critical links, like their website, even their branding needed some touch up. That's how they reached their goal. So when you leave from here, I would like you to work on your strategy as well. I can easily send the presentation so you can have the steps for your framework. And you should ask some of these questions. So if you take your whiteboard or even that piece of paper, who's on your left side? Who's your ideal customer? What do you want to prioritize? You cannot prioritize everything. No matter how good you are, you still need a very specific niche. I work with coaches mainly, but I work with specific niches. I cannot target all coaches of Cyprus. My content would be very confusing if I want to target everyone. Okay. And once you apply this framework, you will actually ask yourself the question where your F1 car actually loses by 2 seconds. That's where you're losing out your marketing efforts. Okay, the question that matters is actually what is next from here. So you don't have to rebuild the whole car. We kind of saw that. Just need to get everyone driving the same race. Okay? And you already have the parts. So if you're here, you already know about marketing. Even if you're alone or you have a whole team, you have the people. What you have been missing is the system. You should stop running in circles. Okay? You need a growth engine that drives what you already have. Then you start winning that race. It's about time. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. I would like to connect on LinkedIn if anyone I'm not connected with in this room. Hey, thank you. Who's next? I should be the MC now. No, really, who's next? Should I start from the beginning? Who's next?